Hey, and welcome to this week's Inbound Debate. This week I'm joined by Dan No Spam Holt, Nick Your Rankings Pateman, and of course I'm your host James McFarlane. And this week we're going to be talking about the Flowergate scandal. And what is that? Of course I mean Interflora getting kicked out of the search engine rankings, or Google's search engine rankings. Now before we go into opinions on why this happened and what you think about it, I'm just going to give an overview of the topic. So sometime last week, I believe, someone very nicely noticed and commented that Interflora no longer ranked for any terms in the search engines. Now, in terms of a history of Interflora, they've been traditionally very aggressive with their search engine tactics and rankings, specifically kind of local pages and link acquisition. And last week we found that even if you typed in the phrase Interflora into Google, they weren't ranking. They weren't even ranking for their brand name, which seemed a bit ridiculous. And this week we're talking about why that happened. Now, it's been kind of suggested that it was because they went on a bit of a buying spree of advertorials leading up to Valentine's in January. But the first kind of question is, what did my guests make of it and why do they think it happened? Nick, I'm going to start you off.
There was a couple of reasons why people thought this might have happened. One was this advertorial purchasing that Interflora was going around and actually just buying loads of media buyers and actually basically paying for links. The other was a less likely, in my opinion, view that Interflora was basically like sweet talking their bloggers in the industry into linking to them. So they were selling flowers to bloggers with relevant websites and asking them sort of, I'll give you some flowers, you give me a link, and everyone will be happy. So there were those two kind of ways of going about getting links, and to me it was like almost certainly the first reason as to why they got hit. Buying links has always been a big no-no in Google. Giving people gifts and kind of asking for links isn't really against Google.
Well, they've specifically said they're not allowed to. But interestingly, in one of their Google Chrome adverts, there's a guy that sends out satchels and gets links.
It's very much
they came out and said you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to offer gifts in exchange for do follow links. Okay. So they wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think that's probably the less likely thing, though. Buying links is certainly.
And what about yourself, Dan? If we established it's because they bought a lot of advertorials in January, leading up to Valentine's Day. What's your opinion of them getting kicked out?
I think just on that very quickly. I think. An interesting point about Interflora is that certainly in the past you've highlighted them as a potential victim of a penalty at some point, because they pretty much we can speculate over what the cause was, but I think it's fair to say they pretty much ticked every box. If you look at their landing pages, you look at the kind of the sheer over-optimization of the site, I think they gave themselves a pretty good chance that something like this might happen at some point.
Well, they didn't get caught by panda or penguins. So.
Well, no, but I think they
were flying close to the sun.
They were.
Yeah. I think in terms of Google's reaction to it, was it an overreaction? I think it's quite difficult to argue that when someone types in Interflora that they're looking for anything other than Interflora, and therefore I think to not present them as the number one organic result.
If you search for Interflora, they don't appear, but if you search for interflora.co.uk, they're there with site links and everything. I'm not sure what you guys think.
I also kind of wanted, I really enjoyed this topic. It was really it was really interesting to me because like you'd said, they are very aggressive with their SEO techniques, to the point where I've looked at some of their landing pages and been like, this is really against
every post.
But they're an international brand, so they've got away with it, right?
One interesting thing is you're talking about aggressive Interflora tactics from their SEO team. Well, they're kind of, for me, gone the other way in that now I'm not sure you've seen tweets from people who used to put these links up. They're all going, loads of people are asking me to remove my Interflora links. They gave me flowers to put up a link, and now they're asking me to take it down. What's going on? Well, actually, I think the SEO team have got it wrong. I think they're going after these bloggers who gave links to Interflora and telling them to remove the links, when actually I don't think it was those links that were doing any damage. I think they're just making the problem even worse by getting rid of actually probably quite good quality links and not thinking about the real problem, which was the paid link.
I think it's worth a comment as well that obviously Google are guilty of violating their own guidelines with regards to the paid advertorials.
They've always publicly kind of punish themselves.
But that's fine. But ultimately, like the impact that they have by punishing themselves is I would guess not in the same universe as the impact as they're having on Interflora by completely removing them from the index. I think they're going beyond user experience and actually almost into policing the internet, which I think somewhat you got to say what is Google's role, and actually
there's no justification for wiping someone out for a brand search. Like if they have a brand that's offline legitimate, there's no justification whether pay links or not.
That's not being a search. No, that's policing the internet.
I know, and also the crazy thing is, if you went and searched Interflora, guess what showed up? Paid links for Interflora. Google probably double, triple their income just for that brand term, which is just like, I know they obviously didn't do it just to make a few bucks, but like it's kind of stupid to kick them out for their brand search but still show them in the paid listings. So kind of moving on from this, like more of a general question, like what can we as SEOs learn from this? Like, with our client campaigns and doing the SEO for ourselves. Nick?
Well, I think with this whole debacle, I think Google's kind of set an example, and they've gone out there and they've made a huge PR campaign effectively around this instance. And for me, that kind of says to me, Google doesn't know how to algorithmically come down on paid links. It says to me that they can't come down on paid links through a mathematical method. So what they do is they make a big song and dance about this one company, make a big high profile case, and then now people are kind of a bit scared of doing it, even when actually, they're still having trouble finding paid links. So it's a good way. I think it's great that, they're coming down on paid links. I don't think that's a bad thing. But I think they're doing it for reasons that are kind of an SEO or everyday SEO shouldn't actually worry about.
I don't think there's a huge amount to learn from it. It's a very interesting, high profile case, but I don't think it's taught us anything that we didn't already know. I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think Interflora were probably quite fortunate to survive as long as they did. I think maybe it's been over the top, the reaction now.
They're pushing it.
But I think a penalty of some description was inevitable at some stage. I think when you're being that aggressive with all of your tactics, both on page and off page, I think it's just an inevitability.
For me, it's kind of, it showed me that Google will punish global brands. Because if you think about Interflora, they're getting the brand searches, they're probably getting the engagement, but if they're breaking the terms of service, like from a ranking point of view, organic ranking point of view, they're not afraid to kind of take that action. Because a lot of people kind of think that sometimes when you get a big enough brand, like you're kind of untouchable in Google.
But I think there is an element of that, because I think the fact that they survived Penguin Panda last year is actually indicative of the power of brand. The fact that it had to be a manual action.
And this isn't the first time. We've seen Forbes, we've seen JCPenney or something, and a couple of other.
I don't think there's anything
big
really
high profile cases.
new.
Yeah, it's just every few months Google makes a big song and dance about a company that's been pushing the limits, and they've done it the same here.
Okay, and finally, guys, I have a final question for us. How are you going to find Interflora now? Like, what's your...
You search for Interflora.co.uk. It comes up, site links and all.
What about you, Dan? How are you going to do it? Are you going to use Bing? Are you going to start asking Facebook graph search? Where should I buy flowers?
Well, to be honest, I mean, it's something I'm pretty familiar with, having sent out, sort of 20, 30 bouquets of flowers on Valentine's Day. Didn't get any in return. Didn't want any. But yeah, so I'm pretty familiar with the market. It's not a problem.
And at some point when I have the need to send out flowers, maybe I'll I don't know, maybe I'll use Bing. Controversial, but yeah.
You won't though.
Well, thank you very much, guys, for joining me. As always, this has been the Inbound Debate, and we'll see you next week. Cheers, bye.